I was reading this study that really blew me away. It was on apes, and what they were doing is testing dopamine levels in apes and how the receptors responded. The way the experiment worked was that every time the ape pulled the lever, they were rewarded with a banana. What they found is, contrary to how we perceive dopamine, once the lever was pulled and the ape was given the banana, the dopamine levels had dropped, had plummeted, which was quite puzzling because we think of dopamine as this happy chemical that when we are rewarded, we will automatically feel happy and joyful, and that would spike our dopamine. But what they found is that once the lever was pulled, dopamine started reducing drastically. It turns out that dopamine is not a reward chemical. Dopamine is an anticipation chemical. So what they did was they changed the randomness of the experiment. So sometimes they would give the monkey a banana and sometimes they wouldn't. So sometimes they would pull the lever and the banana didn't appear. And other times they pulled the lever and the banana appeared. And with this 50% randomness, they checked the dopamine levels. They found the dopamine levels had risen by something like 50% because there was that sense of uncertainty that maybe I won't get the banana. And here we see dopamine levels rising. And then they made this test even more random, like once every third time or once every fourth time. And they seeing the dopamine levels at one stage went up to like 150%, which shows you that dopamine is not the chemical for achievement. It's the chemical for wanting achievement. So what that means is that if you have big ambitions and things that are so big for you to achieve that you may never even get it, your dopamine levels are flying high because of the expectation. It's like looking up at the mountaintop and you're going up the mountain. As you're going up, your dopamine levels are constantly surging because you're seeing the top of the mountain and you're saying, I can't wait to get there. But the moment you get to the top of the mountain, you throw your hands in the air and then dopamine starts receding, which is why we feel when people are in very comfortable situations, they're not motivated. And so when we have difficulty in our lives, this is the time when we're most motivated because we're on the pulse of life. We're feeling life. We are engaged with life. We can lose everything. And that randomness is what keeps dopamine surging. So if you think about it, what we should be doing rather than achievement, is more and more unachievable goals. And that's why you find very successful people always push the success matrix all the way down the road. Like I heard that at Facebook, there's a sign that says, we've only achieved 1% of our target. What this does then is our minds are saying, well, we got to, keep on grinding. I remember there was this guy called The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and he said, what made me successful is that my back was against the wall and I didn't know if I was going to succeed or not. And I had to give it all 100%. And then I got successful. And he said, now that I am successful, I imagine myself with my back against the wall and I got to keep on going. And that's keeping your dopamine levels surging and you're constantly pushing and wanting more and achieving greater things. So set yourself an unattainable target. Set yourself a ridiculous goal because that's when you feel most alive. And that's why you find people saying, I want that. Well, why aren't you happy with this? Well, that's why, because then life would not be worth living. So understand the mechanism behind it. And it was so wonderful that I read what Rumi said so beautifully. And he said, the lion is the most majestic when it's hungry and it's hunting. So when the lion is on the prowl, it's handsome, it's engaged with life. And you could look at that as the dopamine. It's just surging, it's waiting to fill its belly. And it's majestic and it's alive. But if you've seen a lion once it's filled its belly, it's lying down there and not very majestic at all. And that's very important to understand that having unachievable goals and having very difficult things for us to achieve keeps us hungry, keeps us handsome, keeps us beautiful, keeps us striving for more. And having too much and getting what we want actually starts making us fade into oblivion and becoming very lazy and very sloppy. So I always set ridiculous goals for myself, knowing that this is good for me. Now, if you suffer that, then you're really being an idiot. If you're suffering the fact that you can't get that thing, oh, why is life so difficult? Because a lot of the times you've made it difficult. I've seen it over and again with my clients. They want impossible things. They're like, oh, I don't like this relationship. I want another one. Well, go and get it. But they don't want just any relationship. They want the impossible thing. What about their job? They're not happy with this job. They want that impossible job. But then they suffer and they say, oh, why is it so difficult? Understanding that that difficulty is what's keeping you alive and fighting, you start using that as a fuel to drive you for further success instead of making you feel despondent and despair about life. You're saying, well, that's keeping me alive. It's keeping me hungry. It's keeping me strong. And that's a fuel that we can use instead of exhausting ourselves. So understand the mechanisms of our minds and how to utilize that